Badger fans, we got another one. The Cannons stay hot. Torin Pettaway flips back to the Badgers from the Gophers, which feels right all along. Let's talk about it. The recruiting staff stays hot on Wisconsin. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Happy, what is this today? Tuesday, Wednesday? I don't even know. On Wisconsin, Torin Pettaway flips back to the Badgers defensive lineman, 6'5", 280 pounds. Let's put the information up here. Coming out of Middletown, Wisconsin, so in-state kid. And as always, we got to fire the cannons. This recruiting staff is rolling right now. This staff is coming, this class has come together so well. And I don't know how you can't be excited if you're a Badger fan right now with all this going on. And a few that are still coming up, by the way. Let's fire the cannons.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
I also feel like this might be a twofer from the sound bank because there were a lot of Minnesota fans getting a little high and mighty on this one. PJ Fleck coming in. He's obviously talked a little trash here and there. For all those Minnesota fans listening, which there won't be any, but it's worth a good laugh taking Pettaway back from the Gophers. All right, let's talk about Pettaway's game here. We'll get some comments as always. Justin says, boom. Let's go, Justin. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Double Badger says the staff is on fire. Mo Lester said, got the big boy. I agree. We got him. We got him back. Let's talk about the game. All right, let's talk about what we see on film. Again, Torin Pettaway, 6'5", up to about 280 pounds now. I know he's listed on 247 as about 260. Rivals is about 260. So he's a little bit bigger. He's got the type of frame that you kind of dream on for a defensive lineman, right? 6'5", 280. He's got long levers, like long arms. What does he do with those, right? You see passes deflected. You see disruption in the short passing game. He's got that type of frame. Loudermilk did a lot of that. You try to think of the last Badger defensive lineman who really affected the passing game from that standpoint. Isaiah Loudermilk was that type of guy. Pettaway does that. Pettaway gets arms in the passing lane. He has a good feel for it, which indicates good awareness, good football IQ, understanding if I'm not going to get there, let me disrupt the short slant. Let me disrupt some of what I can from that defensive end standpoint. He also uses his arms to disengage from blockers, right? He doesn't get locked on. He kind of stacks the offensive lineman up and converts some strength to power, stacks them up and then sheds them. So he has an understanding of what he's trying to do there. Good burst. It's not, I don't think it's elite, but he's got juice for a 280-pound guy, right? This is not a player that is unable to find a gap and explode through. This is not a player that can't kind of track down a play from the backside. So there's athleticism. I don't think it's the elite athleticism, but there's, for a 6'5", 280-pound defensive end, it's definitely there. I like some of the motor, right? Again, a couple clips of him tracking plays down the backside. Like a lot of players, technique, you got to get a little better. There's a couple plays where you're timing that jump off the line of scrimmage, and he's to be a little quicker getting that jump off the line of scrimmage, but those are things that are correctable. Those are things that are coachable. What you can't coach, we talk about this all the time. What you can't coach is frame. You can't coach the God-given DNA that you have, right? I can't coach myself to be 6'3" and have not a receding hairline. That's just my lot in life. And, you can't just find 6'5", 280-pound guys are walking around. So he's got that frame that really fits. I like that he has some lateral quickness, right? You see it on the line of scrimmage, the ability to kind of move quickly to exploit a gap, create a gap, or create kind of a half man with the blocker. So there's some lateral quickness in his game. I like the floor a lot. If you're talking about Pettaway, and that's never meant, whenever I say that, that's never meant as like a backhanded thing. A lot of players never make contributions. This feels like a guy who is pretty likely to be a rotational defensive lineman at the very least. And you need those, right? You need defensive linemen. You need waves of defensive linemen. We've talked about it. That's what Georgia does. That's what LSU, when they're really good, did. That's what Clemson, when they were winning titles. Yeah, they had quarterbacks too, but they could also go 8 deep on the defensive line and you never wore down. So you need bodies, right? And this is definitely a body that I feel like is going to be able to contribute in a year or two because he has the frame, he has the motor. It's a really good pickup. And again, You take him back from PJ Fleck. I remember when he flipped, man. I had Gophers fans in my mentions. This is the new Gophers recruiting. There is no border now. Wisconsin's in state. We're going to take what we want. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's get some comments. And I appreciate everybody jumping in as always. ZYT says, this is awesome. Defensive line commit, and we get a stick it to the Gophers. There's nothing better than that. Craig Henrik says, awesome, taking one back. Sink your boat, go Bucky. Yeah, this is a fun show. It's a little sweeter, right, to take him back. Let me address this too, because I've been very consistent on this. I've been consistent on this with Rob Booker. I've been last year's tight end who committed to Wisconsin, in-state player. Really like him. I had him on the show. Flipped to UCLA, came back to Wisconsin. I've been consistent on this with players that have flipped from Wisconsin and not flipped back. I never begrudge kids for changing their minds or making different decisions. This has got to be so difficult. And you have coaches constantly coming at you, trying to get you to change your mind. I change my mind all the time, and I'm 41. Y'all should see me in the grocery store when I'm sent to go get like Triscuits and some water. I'll find myself in the cookie aisle spending 15 minutes trying to figure out what cookie I'm getting. Like I can be super indecisive. So I never hold it against players or kids, young men, changing minds and changing decisions. I just think that these decisions are so hard and they have so many people pulling them in different directions. I never get bothered by it, whether it ends up benefiting the Badgers or not. Like it never stresses me out. So I'm glad he's here, and that's all that matters. We need numbers on the defensive line. You got to keep adding. This can't be the last piece, but there's a couple other guys out there on the defense line that I think the Badgers are in a good spot for. I think you need 3, probably this class, if you can get 3, and then you got to keep stacking it. Let's go here. L. Mills, good vibes around the football program. Seems like recruits are following the action. Now, please give us 8 wins. Yeah, I agree. But that first part's dead on, Mills, right? There's great vibes right now. Like this, we are on a recruiting heater. And you have Mason Posa coming up on a decision. The Badgers have a chance there. You have Eugene Hilton, the receiver out of Indy, coming up in the decision. The Badgers have a chance there. There's a couple defensive linemen that the Badgers are still very much in on, and I think you're going to get a couple of them. Right, there's Garcia coming on a visit, a defensive lineman out of Tennessee. Telemek, Wilnerson, who was just on an official last week, has a decision coming up. It's us or West Virginia, it sounds like. Nicholas Clayton, I really like him. The kind of speedier, quicker, disruptive defensive lineman out of Florida. You still have Jaden Woods, and Jaden Lofton out there from the first week of official visits. So they're going to add a couple more bodies here. And the thing with all of these players is they all have carrying traits. None of them are flotsam, right? They all have carrying traits, whether it's the frame with Garcia and Telemac, and or it's the quickness with like Clayton and Woods. They just all have something unique that they can bring to the defensive line, and you need them. You need 3 or 4 bodies. Let's go a couple more comments here. Actually, a quick break for our friends of the show, and then come back. We'll get more comments. We got Zach Bartz, Olson, Rocktober, Ben, a bunch of people in the chat. We'll get to your comments. Plus, let me defend Justin for a second, too. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs, all your sports betting information. You're not going to find a better spot to do it, right? It's fast, it's simple, it's easy. Futures, parlay, spreads, teasers, whatever you want over on FanDuel. Great time to get some futures in. Also, just a great time to, and listen, NBA Finals are still going on. Baseball's in full swing. Maybe a Wisconsin Badgers future, whatever you want. It's over there at FanDuel.com/lockedon. New customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's bonus bets you can use on whatever you want. Like snazz up your Badger room, right? Use your bonus bets to fund maybe a Melvin Gordon framed jersey. Underneath it, you can put Heisman snub hashtag. What better way to spend money? So FanDuel.com/lockedon. Spice up your weekend. Please do it responsibly, though. From the bottom of my heart, please do it responsibly. But it is a fun, great time over at FanDuel. Okay, let's get comments. Let's get thoughts. Let me do this one quick. And no, I'm going to save the defense of Justin for the end because I have to break with what we're talking about now to defend Justin. So I'm going to come up on that one. Let's get some comments. So Jesse Wilder, give us a former Badger for Pettaway, in your opinion. I think, so this is off the top of my head. This is a great question, Jesse. I think I would go Louder Milk, actually. I think the frames are similar. I think they both came, obviously, Wisconsin and State. Loudermilk played in a small kind of Kansas league. It was like 8-man football. I think they both needed some technique and refinement coming into the program. But I think both have, and obviously Loudermilk's in the NFL. I think Pettaway has that type of upside if he hits. I'm going to go with Loudermilk. Although, as I think about it, maybe I'll come up with something better. Let me know in the chat. Who do y'all think? Tyler Stuber says, love it. Let's see a couple more comments here. Zach Bart says, hit at a position of need. Check. In-state talent. Check. Screws over little bro. Check. And Fickell bodies Fleck on and off the field. Take the L, little bro. Fickell's got it from here. That might be my favorite comment of the day. Love Zach, man. He's a good friend of the show for sure. Let's see. Keep going here. Mr. October said there's no crying in recruiting, PJ. Karma for last year's whining about negative recruiting. Yeah. If you remember, PJ had some interesting comments about Wisconsin negatively recruiting the Gophers. By the way, I don't know if you know if I really commented on that, but you can't negatively recruit if you're telling the truth, right? Let's be clear here. Wisconsin telling a recruit, hey, we're a better program than Minnesota. Hey, we have a better head coach. Hey, we have more pedigree. By the way, Madison is way freaking nicer than the Twin Cities. Also, our stadium is so much better. By the way, our student section is better. By the way, a degree from Minnesota or Wisconsin's worth a little bit more. Like, that's not negatively recruiting if you just tell recruits the truth. And I thought it was funny that PJ was like, oh, they're negatively recruiting me. And in the back of my head, I was like, I bet you they're just saying Wisconsin's a better program. And that's true, bro. So anyway, Fleck had some comments. He's like, yeah, we axed it. You know that stuck in Fickell's brain. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Ben Albin says a tall Garrett Rand. I don't know if I see a tall Garrett Rand. You know why that's hard for me to envision? It's because he wasn't tall. And it's hard for me to picture him as like a 6'5", 6'6" guy. But I could see some of it. John Kottmeyer says, we got Pettaway back. Put that one in your boat, Fleck. Jack Esser, great job by the staff. Momentum matters. Keep it rolling. Chris Hart's obviously a great friend of the show. Finally made alive. Yeah, you've been ducking me, Chris. Like, where have you been at? He said it's been a hot minute. Yeah, it's been more than a hot minute, Chris. You took a sabbatical, bro. Let's see. Mo Lester said we won Bama. Do we, though? Do we? Yes, listen, I'm all about it. This home slate's going to be great, but Bama has a lot of talent in that room. Brian Hongeman says, looking good, Ryan. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that, bro. Your avatar's looking good, too. Jeffrey Demeter says, a bunch of commitments is great, but got to deliver on signing day. 100% agreed. This staff, though, they lock in pretty well. Like, there's not a lot of players that Wisconsin loses on signing day, right? So I'm not too worried. Obviously, anything in recruiting can happen, and nothing in recruiting surprises me, but I'm not too worried. Let's see if there's any other comments in here. 19th Warrior, let's go. Greg Lincecum, good friend of the show. Hopefully first of several defense lineman recruits. They're going to get several more. Where they end up, I'm not sure, but 100% agree. All right, let me do this quick because I want to defend Justin. I've been saying that. This was a comment somebody threw up there. This is from John, and John, respect the comment. This is from the show Justin I did the other day. We were talking about Nizy Davis, but we also talked about Vucevic, the Serbian big man that Greg Gardland did. John says, Justin is so biased against guard, he's hard to take seriously. So first of all, John, appreciate the comment as always, man, and everyone's perspective is welcome. And you're not being a jerk on this, so I'm not calling you out. But I also want to defend Justin in the sense that, like Justin just has a perspective where he feels like the program almost needs to go in a different direction. I don't need to speak for him. Like, he speaks for himself just fine, but it's not that he's biased against guard. I just feel like he thinks the direction isn't working, right? And that's a fair perspective, right? He looks at some of the early exits in March. He looks at some of the inability at times to land athletes. He looks at some of the stubbornness, and I think it's frustrated him. And I think he's kind of internally decided this isn't working. I want a different direction. I think that's fair. And I don't fully agree with him on all that. In fact, I disagree with him on several of those points. I also agree with him on a couple of those points, but I think it's a fair perspective. And again, Justin doesn't need me to defend him, obviously, but I just thought this was an interesting comment to put up there and talk through some of the differences. I did go back. I put it on Twitter today. If you guys saw it, I found a full game clip of Vucevic Went back, watched the entire thing. I'm telling y'all, for a backup 5, this is pretty good. So let me give you the quick scouting report. Pretty mobile, laterally, really mobile. There's clips of him in pick and roll defense, blitzing, falling back. And I apologize for you that are just here for football recruiting and you don't want to talk about basketball. This will be my one basketball thing. He's really good underneath the rim, boxes out, understands rebounding. He's a positional rebounder, good defensive awareness. He cuts off. There's several clips where he's cutting off ball handlers. He walls up really well, which again, getting vertical. Moves well, gets up and down the court pretty well, has some touch by the rim, understands pick and roll offense, understands spacing. Now, those are the positives, right? So situationally aware, physically mature body, moves well laterally, good hands, will finish around the rim, and pretty good defender. On the negative side, not an elite vertical athlete, so he's not going to go up and block shots. He's not going to yam on people. He's going to miss some shots by the rim because he lacks some of that vertical athleticism and vertical explosiveness. He's not a shooter, and I'm not sure if he ever will be. So you're getting, I think the player you're getting is a good backup 5 who could develop into a solid starter, and I think that's the ceiling. So there's my scouting report on him. More to follow there, but I did want to defend Justin again. Not that he needs it, but T-Stream from one of the YouTube comments, Pettaway flip, fire the cannons. I agree, man. Let's see if there's any other comments to get in here, and then we will wrap it up. Who's Remy says, will the 25 class be the best in history? I don't know if this is Remington Moss or not. We occasionally get some people that jump in and into the, I don't think it is, but occasionally people jump into the live shows that are recruits or players or coaches. I don't think the 25 will be the best in history. I think that I really like last year's class. And let's be fair, let's not do a disservice to the early classes that Barry Alvarez brought in. Those early, and I obviously wasn't following recruiting as closely at that point. Like I was like 10, right? But those classes fueled 3 Rose Bowl berths and victories in the Rose Bowl. So yeah, like those classes are probably up there. Paul Christ had that class that finished 16th, but the results on the field weren't good enough. Last year's class was elite. Last year's class was really, really good. I would put this class probably just behind that one, but not by a ton. I think it comes down to last year's class was a little better at the running back spot. I think the offensive line spot was a tick better. Defensive line room was a little better in last year's class too. People could flip a coin on receiver. Well, I think receiver in this class would be a little better, and you could probably flip a coin in the secondary between the two when you look at the numbers. So I think last year's class was a tick better. But this year's class is shaping up to be really, really good, and it's a great stacking class, right? We always talk about stacking talent. Last year's class was a really good class. Now you're stacking it with another really good class. That's how you compete. You don't compete by just getting one really good class and then falling off. It's continually improving everywhere across the board, and that's how you compete. That's what this staff has been doing, spearheaded by Luke Fickell, because it all falls underneath him. But then that recruiting department with Pat Lambert, Max Steinecker. By the way, everybody always says Maximus to me, and I just can't get around to say Maximus Steinecker. I don't understand why. I call him Max, but I think what they're doing is incredible. And if they continue to stack these classes, there's no ceiling to what Wisconsin can do, potentially. So I'm very excited about it, as you can tell. Now, the defense line recruiting has to get better, right? You have to land some studs there. You have to hit on the quarterbacks. It's not enough to bring them in. Now you have to develop them. It remains to be seen if the staff will do that, but I love both these classes, man. I love both these classes. Rather be in Cabo says, I'm starting to be a believer. Well done, coaching staff. I'm curious what the holdout has been, right? Just in terms of recruiting. Now you still got to prove it on the field, but it feels like for a couple years now, this recruiting staff has shown what they can do. Okay, let's keep going here. A couple more comments and we'll roll it up. John Kottmeyer, hopefully Posa is next, and I'd love to get Watts and P-Track. I think, listen, Posa, so Mason Posa, the linebacker out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, is announcing on Thursday, right? It sounds like Wisconsin's in a good spot. He would be a dynamic dynamite pickup for the Badgers. Super athletic. And then you just throw him into the pot of Heiberger, of Ains, of Cheeks, of Tackett, right? Of Lafayette, of all these linebackers you've added. Like the athleticism in that room is really, really unique. And he would be a tremendous pickup for the Badgers. Watts, the big time interior offensive lineman, I think that's going to be a tough pull, but Blazek. Coach Blazek has done a tremendous job up to this point. P-Drag sounds like a tough bowl. Oklahoma might get the nod there, but yeah, I would love him. Absolutely love him. Zach Bart says 24 and 25 hit some absolute dogs. Both classes will produce great results for Wisconsin. I kind of think so. Yeah, I kind of agree on that. All right, let's wrap it up there, y'all, because, again, this was just going to be kind of a quick show. B-Vault, though. B-Vault, haven't made a live in a while. He's a good friend of the show. Love him. And a couple more comments on Justin. White Marlin says Justin is right and objective. Listen, I'm defending Justin. I'm not saying he's right, White Marlin. I think he's a little too critical of the Badgers team, the Badgers basketball team. But I think that's a fair perspective to have. I just disagree with it, but I think I think he might be a little surprised with how good this team is this year potentially, but we will see. We will definitely see. And you know what? Either way, we'll be here. Good, bad, or indifferent. We'll be here. We'll be chopping up. We'll be building the community. A bunch of great stuff coming up this year for everyone that's helped build this community. Most of I'm moving back to Wisconsin, so we're going to do some meetups. We're going to do some live game rewatches. We're going to do some more giveaways. This summer, we're going to be doing a Locked On Badgers trivia contest. Let's find the smartest Badgers trivia guy. We're going to have the fun contest, do that live. A lot of stuff coming up this year. So on Wisconsin, Badgers pick up Torin Pettaway. I think it's a really, really nice add to that defense line room, and you stick it to the flex there. So with that, we will wrap it up. Oh, here's a good one. Let's finish here. Who's Remy says predict a record for this year. I've said, and by the way, this is like one of my weaknesses is being able to get off a live show without taking more questions and comments. I just can't help it because the community is awesome. I would say I've said 9-3, but I could see 8-4. And I've been told I'm a little too low on that. I don't know. The schedule's really hard. I think you're still trying to figure out quarterback a little bit. I think there's still some depth issues on the offensive defensive line. And given all of that with the schedule, winning 8 to 9 games would be a tremendous step forward. Like, I would be stoked if we went 9-3. Are you kidding me? That means you're not losing any teams that you shouldn't lose to, and you're also beating one of the elite teams on your schedule. So I know some think 10. I would say 8 to 9 wins is where I'm at right now, but I'm subject to change that as it gets closer. We're gonna wrap it up there on Wisconsin. Really do appreciate y'all. Let's go. More to come tomorrow. Oh, Samuel Leteju was on the show today, so that'll drop tomorrow. Had some really good things to say about Coach Mitchell. You're going to like that guy. You're definitely going to like Samuel Leteju. He is a ton of fun, has a great energy, great attitude. I think he could be a star. So on Wisconsin, we'll talk later. Let's go.